we talk about potential a lot in these deep dives.
Yeah.
Usually it's about a tech startup that almost made it, or maybe a movie that got stuck in development hell.
Yeah.
It's usually this abstract thing.
Sure, the could-have-been stories,
Yeah.
the ones that got away, they're always fascinating.
Exactly. But in music, potential is, well, it's usually a nice way of saying, didn't quite make it. Like, oh, they had so much potential, which is really just code for they had one good song on the radio in 2004, and then poof, they vanished into the ether.
It's the one-hit wonder syndrome. Or you see it with a band that puts out a classic first album and then just breaks up before the second one, that kind of thing.
But today,
Mm-hmm.
today's deep dive, it feels really different. I was reading through the massive stack of research you sent over. And by the way, thank you for the extra material on that ethylene book, which we absolutely need to talk about.
Oh, for sure. That's a crucial piece of the puzzle.
Reading all of this, I genuinely got angry.
Angry. That's a strong reaction. Not usually the one we aim for.
Yeah. No, it was. It was frustration. Because we were looking at a story where the potential wasn't theoretical. It wasn't a maybe. It was literally, it was being signed on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
It was days away.
It was imminent.
Yes. We aren't talking about a guy who might have become a star. We're talking about a guy who was standing on the absolute threshold of becoming the king of New York, arguably a billionaire mogul right alongside Jay-Z, and then the door just slammed shut.
That is the perfect way to frame the tragedy of Lamont Coleman.
Better known to the entire world as Big L.
The Punchline King. The lyricist, a legend's legend.
But see, here is the tension I want to start with, because I really need you to explain this to me.
Yeah.
If I look at the stats, just the raw numbers, Big L released exactly one studio album while he was alive.
Just one.
One. And it peaked at number 149 on the Billboard 200.
Which, statistically speaking, in the major label system of the 1990s, is a commercial flop. There's no other way to put it.
Right. So if I'm an alien landing on Earth and I'm just looking at the spreadsheets, Big L is a footnote. He's a blip on the radar. But if I talk to Nas, if I talk to Jay-Z or Eminem, they talk about this guy like he's a deity.
A force of nature.
Miles literally said he was scared to death to rap against him. So what is the disconnect here? That's my mission for this deep dive. I want to understand how a guy with a quote-unquote failed debut album became a hip-hop god.
And we are absolutely going to bridge that gap, because to understand Big L, you can't look at the sales figures. That's the wrong metric. You have to look at the mechanics, the actual science of what he was doing with words.
The technique.
The technique. We're going to talk about something later on called compounding. It's a rhyme technique that he had mastered before almost anyone else was even attempting it.
And we have to talk about the what if, the giant looming what if of the Roc-A-Fella deal.
It might be the biggest what if in all of hip-hop history. We have sources today, including that biography Ethylene you mentioned, and some very recent, very controversial updates from 2025 that paint the picture of a guy who is about to merge his untouchable underground credibility with Jay-Z's unstoppable commercial machine.
And we're also going to get into the darkness.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't tell this story without talking about 139th Street, the danger zone, and the cold case murder that went unsolved for decades.
And the prevailing theory that it wasn't just random street violence, that it was a specific targeted hit involving a complex, almost Shakespearean web of family loyalty and, ultimately, betrayal.
It's a heavy one today, but it's a necessary one.
Absolutely necessary. He's too important to be just a footnote.
Okay, let's drop the needle then. Take us back. Who was Lamont Coleman before he was a legend?
To understand Lamont, you really have to understand the geography first. He was born May 30, 1974, Harlem, New York City, specifically 139th Street between Lenox and Fifth Avenue.
And 1974. I mean, New York is a completely different planet back then. It's not the tourist-friendly, sanitized Times Square you see today.
Oh, not at all. It's gritty, it's dangerous, especially in certain neighborhoods. But it's also incredibly vibrant. It's the incubator for what hip-hop is about to become. And Lamont was the baby of the family.
The youngest of three.
The youngest of three, yes. His mother was Gilda Terry, and his father was Charles Davis. But, and this is a common story for that era, the father leaves the picture very early on while Lamont is still a child.
So it's essentially a single-mother household.
Mostly, yes.
Yeah.
But the real dynamic you need to pay attention to is the siblings. He grew up with two older half-brothers, Donald and Leroy Finazzi.
Finazzi. Okay, that name is important. And these brothers, they aren't just background characters, right? They're not just names on a family tree.
No, absolutely not. They are, in a way, the bookends of his life. One of them, Donald, introduces him to the dream that will make him a star. And the other, Well, the other, Leroy, is inextricably tied to the nightmare that ends it all. But we'll get there.
So as a kid, he's Little L. He's Mont. Just a neighborhood kid. Every superhero has an origin story. You know, of a radioactive spider bite or a traumatic event in an alleyway. What was Big L's radioactive spider?
It was a ticket stub.
A ticket stub. Seriously.
It was 1981. Lamont is just 7 years old, and his big brother Donald takes him to the Beacon Theater.
The Beacon. That's a legendary venue on the Upper West Side. Who was playing that night?
Run DMC.
Oh, come on. At 7 years old, I was eating paste and watching cartoons when I was 7. He's at a Run DMC concert.
Well, Lamont was getting a very different kind of education. I mean, try to imagine that. It's 1981. Hip-hop is still young. It's raw. It's electrifying. And you're a 7-year-old kid from Harlem seeing Run DMC and Jam Master Jay on stage, controlling a crowd of thousands of people with just 2 turntables and a microphone.
It must have been like seeing magic for the first time.
That's exactly how his brother described it. Donald said that Lamont didn't just enjoy the show, he was awed by it, completely mesmerized.
It's one thing to see the trick, but it's another to want to know how it's done.
Precisely. It flipped a switch in his brain. Donald said from that moment on, Lamont was different. He wasn't just passively listening to the music anymore. He was studying it. He was deconstructing it, trying to figure out the rhyme patterns, the cadences.
I just love that image. The little 7-year-old scholar of rhythm in his bedroom. So he starts practicing early.
Very early. By the time he's 12 years old, he's not just playing tag in the streets. He's freestyling with his neighbors. He's battling people on the block, older kids, anyone. And around 1990, he starts officially writing his rhymes down.
And this is where we see the first real sign of his personality type, his drive.
What do you mean by that?
Well, he doesn't just want to be good, he wants to be organized. He forms a group.
He does. In 1990, he founded a group called Three the Hard Way.
Three the Hard Way. That has some very 90s action movie energy to it. I love it.
It was him, a guy named Doc Ream, and another guy named Rodney. But the group implodes almost immediately.
The classic creative differences.
Not even that, really. It was a lack of hustle, at least from his perspective. The other guys just didn't care as much as he did. They treated it like a fun hobby on a Friday night. He treated it like it was his career already.
He was a professional at 16.
Mentally, yes. So Rodney left. They tried to rebrand the remaining duo, him and Doc Ream.
And what did they call themselves?
Two hard motherfuckers.
Okay, very subtle. I like it. A branding consultant's nightmare, but I respect the directness.
Not exactly a radio-friendly name for 1990, no. But that group folded, too, for the same reason, and I think this is a crucial character moment for him.
How so?
Big L looks around at his friends, at the people he came up with, and he has this powerful realization. If I wait for anyone else to be as hungry as I am, I'm going to starve.
It's a very profound and kind of lonely realization for a teenager to have.
It is. So he decides to go solo. And he decides to take a massive, massive risk. This is the Cinderella moment you mentioned at the top of the show.
This is my favorite part of the story. Because the sheer audacity required. I get sweaty palms just thinking about doing this.
Okay, so it's the summer of 1990. Picture it. 125th Street in Harlem. There's a record shop, Rock and Will's Records. And the legendary Lord Finesse is inside, signing autographs for his new album.
And just for our listeners who might not have a PhD in 90s rap hierarchies, who is Lord Finesse in the ecosystem at that specific time?
He is a titan. He's one of the most respected lyricists out, a top-tier producer, and a key figure in the Bronx and Harlem scene. He is, for all intents and purposes, a gatekeeper. If Lord Finesse co-signs you, you exist. If he ignores you, you might as well be invisible.
So the scene is set. It's summer in New York, so it's probably hot. It's loud. There's a line of fans snaking through the store. Everyone is probably holding a vinyl record, asking for a signature, maybe stammering, "I love your work, man."
Then up to the front of the line walks this teenager, Lamont Coleman, 16 years old. He doesn't ask for an autograph. He doesn't have a record. He looks Lord Finesse right in the eye and asks, "Can I rap for you?"
See, that is just insane. Because usually, famous rappers hate that. It's annoying. Hey, man, listen to my mixtape. It's the punchline of a bad joke in hip-hop.
99 times out of 100, the security guard just steps in and pushes the kid away. But for some reason, maybe it was the look of pure confidence in his eye, maybe Finesse was just bored. He says, "All right, go ahead, show me what you got." And Big L opens his mouth. And he doesn't stumble. He doesn't do some simple nursery rhyme rap. He spits a freestyle that is so complex, so full of multi-syllable rhymes and clever punchlines that Finesse doesn't just listen for 10 seconds and wave him off.
He kept listening.
He stopped everything. He listened to the whole thing. He was so impressed that he exchanged phone numbers with the kid right there on the spot.
That's the modern-day equivalent of walking up to Steven Spielberg, pitching a movie idea in a coffee shop, and walking out with a producer credit. This doesn't happen.
It really is. And just like that, with one freestyle, he's in the game. By 1991, Lamont Coleman, now officially going by Big L, is inducted into Lord Finesse's legendary collective, the Diggin and the Crates crew, or D.I.T.C.
Which is not a small thing. D.I.T.C. is a super group of talent. You've got Finesse, you've got Showbiz and AG, Diamond D later on, Fat Joe and OC join. He fell in with the absolute heavy hitters immediately.
And this brings up a really interesting point about the barrier to entry in the 90s versus today.
Oh, it's a huge difference. Today, you can just upload a song to SoundCloud or make a video for TikTok. If the algorithm likes you, you're famous. You don't need anyone's permission. You can record a hit song in your bedroom.
Exactly. But back then, it was gladiatorial. There was no internet to hide behind. You couldn't go viral. You had to physically stand in front of a gatekeeper, a person who knew more than you, who was better than you, and prove in real time that you were better than everyone else trying to get their attention.
You had to be undeniable, right then and there. No auto-tune, no second takes, no editing.
And Big L thrived in that environment. That was his element. He went to Julia Richmond High School, graduated in '92, but his real education was happening in the hallways and on the street corners. He said in his last interview, "In the beginning, all I ever saw me doing was battling everybody on the street corners, rhyming in the hallways, beating on the wall."
It was a sport to him. It was his version of playing basketball.
It was more than a sport. It was combat. And that combat mentality is what directly led to the development of his specific, unique style. You mentioned compounding earlier.
Yeah, let's dig into that.
Yeah.
Because critics and rappers always talk about his razor blade flow. What specifically was he doing with words that was so different? Because to an untrained ear, sometimes rap just sounds like rap.
Okay, so a very simplified explanation is that most rappers at the time, and even most rappers now, use what we call end rhymes. You say a sentence, and the last word of that sentence rhymes with the last word of the next sentence. Simple. Cat, hat, bat.
Simple, effective. I went to the store, I wanted to buy some more. Easy to follow.
Right, it works. But Big L didn't do that. He used compounding. He would stack internal rhymes, multisyllabic rhymes, and metaphors all on top of each other, rapidly, often within the same single bar of music. So he's rhyming the middle of the sentence with the end of the next one, all while setting up a punchline that's going to hit you 3 bars later.
So it's like he's playing 3D chess with words while everyone else is still playing checkers.
That's a perfect analogy. It's incredibly dense. It's the kind of rap you have to rewind the tape 3 or 4 times just to catch everything he said. Critics called it a lyrical snick-up. He was basically undressing his competition with words.
I read one review, I think it was from MF DeBella at AllMusic, who described his flow as having a razor blade under the tongue.
That is such a vivid and accurate description. It implies that if you get too close, if you try to battle him, you're going to get cut. And he was cutting people left and right.
But being that skilled, that, I guess, that aggressive with his lyrics,
Yeah.
It kind of led him into a trap, didn't it? With that first single, Devil's Son.
It did. This is where the story takes a very weird and defining turn. This is 1993. He releases a promo single called Devil's Son. Now, for people who haven't heard this track, it is intense.
Intense is a very polite word for it. It's graphically violent. It's got occult themes. It's basically a slasher movie on a beat.
It really is. The lyrics are shocking, even by today's standards.
So, was Big L a devil worshiper? Was he trying to start some kind of satanic cult in Harlem?
No, not at all. And this is the great misconception that followed him for years. He explained it later in interviews. He was just a huge fan of horror flicks. He loved watching Halloween, Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street.
The classic 80s slashers.
Exactly. And he looked at his own reality, the very real violence he saw in Harlem, the poverty, the desperation, and he just combined the two. He said he wanted to put it all together in a rhyme.
So it was cinematic? It was just another form of storytelling for him?
It was. But because he was so damn good at it, so convincing, the industry looked at that one song and said, okay, we know what he is. This is the horrorcore guy.
Horrorcore. Just the name of that subgenre sounds niche and limiting.
It is. It's a subgenre focused on graphic violence, supernatural horror, the macabre. You can think of groups like the Grav Guys or early 3-6 Mafia. Big L inadvertently became a pioneer of a genre that he didn't actually want to belong to.
It's like a brilliant actor who plays a villain just one time, but does it so well that nobody will ever hire him to play the romantic lead again.
That is a perfect analogy. He felt completely boxed in by it. He wanted to show he could do everything. He could make party tracks, he could tell stories, he could battle rap. But Devil's Son cast this long, dark shadow over his early career.
But he kept grinding, regardless. He made an appearance on Yo MTV Raps in '92, which was the absolute holy grail of exposure for a rapper back then.
He was on a remix of a Lord Finesse track, Yes You May, and he had a standout verse on Represent from Showbiz and AG's classic album. He was making all the right moves.
And then he won that amateur freestyle battle hosted by Nubian Productions.
Yes, that was a huge moment for his street credibility.
How many people were in that battle again?
2,000.
2,000 contestants. And he won the whole thing.
He was the last man standing. And that just reinforces the level of skill we are dealing with here. This wasn't hype from his friends. This wasn't a marketing gimmick. This was empirical evidence that he was the sharpest blade in the entire drawer.
And all of this momentum, the D.I.T.C affiliation, the battle wins, it finally led to a major label deal with Columbia Records.
Signed in 1993. And that led to the debut album in March of 1995.
Lifestylez of Day Poor and Dangerous.
An iconic title, an iconic album cover, one of the best of the decade.
But not iconic sales.
Yeah.
Not even close.
No. And this is where the story just gets so frustrating.
Let's really talk about that disconnect. It's 1995. This is a golden era for New York hip-hop. You have Biggie's Ready to Die, you have Wu-Tang's 36 Chambers, you have Nas's Illmatic. Hip-hop is selling millions of records. Why did Big L's debut album come out and only hit number 149? That's barely charting.
It's a mix of a few crucial factors. First and foremost, you have to look at the label, Columbia Records. They were a massive pop and rock label. They knew how to sell a Michael Jackson or a Bruce Springsteen record. I honestly don't think they had any idea what to do with an artist like Big L.
So the marketing was just completely off.
The marketing was practically non-existent for the mainstream audience. He wasn't making radio-friendly hits like Big Papa or Juicy. He was making gritty, complex, lyrical, underground street rap, the kind of stuff that D.I.T.C was famous for.
The underground loved it, though. The streets knew what it was.
Oh, absolutely. But in 1995, if you didn't have a glossy, high-budget video on MTV in heavy rotation and a catchy hook sung by an R&B singer, you weren't moving a million units. It was just that simple.
And Big L wasn't willing to compromise on that, was he? He wasn't going to make that kind of record.
No, he was a purist. And that's why we respect him so much today, but it's also why he didn't sell back then. By the year 2000, 5 years after its release, the album had only sold about 200,000 copies.
Which is respectable for an indie artist today, but for a major label signee in the CD era boom, that's a failure in the eyes of the executives.
It's a massive failure. And that failure led to the inevitable. In late 1996, he gets the phone call. He's been dropped from Columbia.
The dreaded artistic differences.
Which is almost always just industry code for you didn't make us enough money. Big L put it a lot more bluntly in an interview. He said, I was there with a bunch of strangers that didn't really know my music.
So now he's at a major crossroads. He's been to the mountaintop, he was signed to a legendary label, and now he's been kicked off. Most rappers at that point would just quit. They become bitter, fade away, and blame the industry.
But Big L had that hustler mentality from the streets. He didn't complain, he pivoted. In 1998, he founded Flamboyant Entertainment.
His own independent record label.
His own label. And listened to his business model because it's absolutely brilliant. He told The Village Voice in an interview that he planned to distribute the kind of hip-hop that sold without needing top 40 samples or R&B hooks.
So he was doubling down on his style. He was basically saying, I'm not going to change my music to fit the market. I'm going to find the market that fits my music. He was creating his own lane.
And that bet paid off almost immediately with one of the most important and ingenious songs in hip-hop history. Rap-hop history.
Oh, man. Ebonics. Criminal slang. If you haven't heard this song, you need to pause this deep dive right now and go listen to it. It was literally a dictionary set to a beat.
It is linguistic anthropology. It's a masterclass in code switching. He breaks down African-American vernacular English, or AAVE slang, term by term, for 2.5 minutes straight. A brand new car is a new wheel. If you're broke, you're on your last meal.
Coca-Cola is Coke. Crack is rock. The feds is the pigs. The joint is the box. It's educational. But it also slapped. It was catchy as hell.
It was pure genius. The Source magazine named it one of the top 5 independent singles of the year. The playwright Idris Goodwin later called it the best example of L's impressive command of the English language. It proved unequivocally that he didn't need a major label to make a hit. He just needed his voice and a good beat.
And that independence, that incredible buzz he created all on his own from the ground up, that attracted the sharks. In a good way this time.
Enter Damon Dash,
the co-CEO of Roc-A-Fella Records.
And we need to really set the context here. What is Roc-A-Fella in 1998, early 1999?
They are the New York Yankees of rap. They are the empire. Jay-Z has just released Volume 2, Hard Knock Life. The single is a global phenomenon. He's not just a rapper anymore. He's a certified superstar. And Roc-A-Fella is looking to expand. They want to corner the entire market.
And Dame Dash sees Big L's independent hustle with Ebonics.
He sees a guy who has the raw, uncut street credibility that Jay-Z respects, but also the buzz and the lyrical talent that can make them even more money. He wants to sign him. This is the moment. This is the what if. Big L is sitting across the table from the hottest, most powerful label in the world. He could have just signed on the dotted line, taken the check, and bought a mansion.
He could have. It would have been the easy thing to do. But he had a condition. And this tells you everything you need to know about his heart and his loyalty.
What was the condition?
He insisted that his crew, a group he had formed called the Wolf Pack, it was McGruff, C-Town, and Stan Spippy signed to Roc-A-Fella as well.
If I eat, we all eat. He was bringing his whole team with him.
Exactly. He wasn't going to leave his friends behind in Harlem. He basically told Damon Dash, I'm not coming alone. It's all of us or none of us.
That is such a risky move.
Yeah.
Usually a label in that position of power would just say, no thanks, we just want you, the star.
Usually, yes. But Roc-A-Fella wanted Big L so badly that they agreed. They were moving forward with signing the entire group.
And Jay-Z himself confirmed this later, right? This isn't just a rumor.
No, it's a fact. Jay-Z said in an interview, quote, "We were about to sign him right before he passed away. It was a done deal."
A done deal.
Yeah.
Let's just pause for a second and imagine that record label roster. You have Jay-Z at the peak of his powers. You have Memphis Bleek. You have Beanie Siegel. And you add Big L to that lineup.
It completely changes the entire architecture of early 2000s hip-hop. Does Big L challenge Jay-Z for the throne? Do they become a dual superpower like the Steph Curry and Kevin Durant of rap and just dominate everything? Or do their egos clash?
It creates a super team before super teams were even a thing in sports. The lyrical talent on that label would have been frightening.
It would have been an arms race that nobody else could win, and the contracts are being drawn up. The process to sign the whole group officially started on February 8th, 1999.
February 8th. Okay, keep that date in your mind. The pen is hovering over the paper. The dream is finally happening.
And then, 1 week later, February 15th, 1999.
We have to go there. 45 West on 39th Street, right in his own neighborhood.
It was a drive-by shooting. Big L was walking near his home. A car pulls up. He was shot 9 times.
9 times. In the face and chest.
It was brutal. It was personal. It was not a robbery gone wrong. They didn't take his jewelry, which was worth a lot of money. They didn't take his wallet. It was a targeted execution.
That level of violence, 9 times, that implies hatred. That implies they were sending a message.
It does. It was meant to be a definitive, brutal end.
So immediately, the NYPD is involved. Who did they look at as the primary suspect?
Almost immediately, the investigation focused on a childhood friend of Lamont Coleman's, a guy named Gerard Woodley.
A friend. Someone he grew up with.
They grew up on the same block, but the police theory was that this was an act of retaliation, but not for something that Big L himself had done.
This is the part of these stories that's always so tragic. The successful artist gets pulled down by the people and the problems they were trying to escape.
The police believed it was retaliation for something Big L's older brother Leroy Fenazi, the one known as Big Lee, had done, or was believed to have done.
So Big L was a proxy target. He was killed to send a message to his brother.
That was the working theory for a very long time. We can't get to the brother, so we get to the famous rapper.
But they did arrest Woodley, right?
They arrested him 3 months later. But here's the problem with street crimes in that era. Evidence. And witnesses. People in the neighborhood don't talk to the police. Witnesses suddenly can't remember what they saw. Woodley was released due to a lack of evidence. The case went cold.
And it stayed cold for a very long time.
For years, for decades, it was just another unsolved Harlem murder. And Gerard Woodley. He didn't exactly get a happy ending out of this either.
No. What happened to him?
Gerard Woodley was killed himself in 2016. Shot in the head in Harlem.
Live by the sword, die by the sword, I guess.
It seems that way. And even then, things remained murky. The rapper Cameron, who grew up with and knew both of them very well, posted a video after Woodley's death claiming that Big L had actually attempted to have Woodley killed a week before L's own death.
Wait, what? That turns the entire narrative on its head, but that just sounds messy. That sounds like street rumors.
It is incredibly messy, and for a long, long time, that's all it was. Rumors, street talk, whispers, until 2017.
2017, a book is published. It's called Epheline, The Rise and Fall of the 139th Saint NFL Crew.
Written by an author named Lou Black.
And who is Lou Black in this story?
He was Gerard Woodley's cousin. So this isn't a journalist speculating from a desk in Midtown Manhattan. This is coming from inside the circle. This is family business being aired out for the world to see.
And the story this book tells, it's not just a simple case of retaliation. It's much more specific and much, much darker.
It is. The book alleges that Big L's brother was in prison at the time of these events. And from his prison cell, he allegedly hired a hitman to take out Gerard Woodley and some of his associates on the street.
Okay, so the brother, Big Lee, orders a hit from jail. Where does Big L fit into this alleged plot?
This is the part of the story that just hurts to read. The allegation in the book is that Big Lamont was tasked by his older brother with identifying the targets to the hired hitman. He was supposed to be the spotter.
Oh, wow. So in this version of the story, he isn't just an innocent bystander caught in the crossfire. He's an active participant in the plot.
According to this account, yes. The story goes that on the planned day of the hit, Woodley noticed he was being followed and watched. He got spooked, and the hit failed. But later that day, Woodley allegedly saw Big L with the man he recognized as the hitman.
He put two and two together. He connected the dots.
Exactly. In that moment, he realized, my childhood friend Lamont just tried to have me killed for his brother.
And the implication of the book is?
The implication is that Big L was killed a week later to prevent another attempt on Woodley's life. It was a preemptive strike.
That is just heartbreaking, because it takes this larger-than-life legend figure and reminds us that he was still a human being, a young man living in what was essentially a war zone.
It complicates the narrative so much. We want our heroes to be pure and untouchable. But the reality of 139th Street in the 90s didn't allow for that kind of purity. He was caught between two worlds. The Lyrical Prodigy world, where he was about to sign with Jay-Z, and the violent, unforgiving reality of his family dynamics and neighborhood ties.
And the ultimate tragedy is that he was so close to getting out for good. 1 week. If he signs that deal a week earlier, maybe he moves to a mansion in New Jersey. Maybe he's on a tour bus in another state.
Maybe he's alive today, and the entire history of modern music is different.
So Big L is gone in 1999. But the weird thing about music is, sometimes death is just a career move.
It sounds incredibly cynical to say, but in the music business, it's often true. And his posthumous career is almost as robust and successful as his living one.
In August of 2000, his manager Rich King managed to put together a posthumous album, The Big Picture.
And just look at the difference in the commercial reception. His debut album flopped, The Big Picture. It was certified gold.
500,000 copies sold.
It debuted at number 13 on the Billboard 200. It had guest features from Tupac, Fat Joe, Big Daddy Kane. It was treated like the coronation he never got in life.
And the single Flamboyant, a track he released independently before his death, it became a #1 hit on the Billboard Hot Rap Tracks chart.
His only #1 single. It's a perfect, tragic example of the mainstream finally being ready for him just a few years too late.
And the releases didn't stop there. Over the years, we've seen compilations, unreleased tracks. But let's fast forward to 2025. This is where it gets really interesting for our listeners who might think the story ended 20 years ago.
Right. 2025 has been a massive and somewhat controversial year for the Big L legacy.
In April of 2025, Nas announced that his company, Mass Appeal, was launching a Legend Has It series to preserve the legacies of hip-hop icons. And Big L was one of the first artists mentioned.
Nas is essentially curating the legacy. He knows what Big L meant to the culture, and he's stepping in to make sure it's handled properly.
And then on April 17th, 2025, the Coleman family officially confirmed a final, definitive album was on the way. It's titled Harlem's Finest, Return to the King.
And it was released on Halloween, October 31st, 2025.
Halloween. That seems very fitting for the guy who famously wrote Devil's Son.
Very fitting. But it hasn't been a completely smooth rollout. The family also released a statement explaining why a lot of Big L's older songs have been removed from streaming services recently.
Why is that happening?
It's the legal nightmare of 90s hip-hop preservation. Uncleared samples, uncredited producers. The music was made in a time when you could just grab a piece of a James Brown record and loop it. Now, decades later, lawyers get involved and things get pulled down.
So the legacy is literally fighting to stay audible in the digital age.
It is, but the fact that we are getting a new, officially sanctioned album in 2025 shows just how hungry the culture still is for his voice. His influence hasn't faded.
And there was supposed to be a documentary too, right? For years we've heard about Street Struck.
Yeah, Street Struck, the Big L story. It was being directed by a childhood friend, a guy named Jews. They announced it way back in 2017, and a trailer was released even earlier in 2009. But as of 2024, it was still unreleased. It's become one of those lost artifacts of hip-hop history.
Hopefully, with the momentum from the 2025 album, that project finally sees the light of day. Because people need to see the footage. They need to see him rapping in the park as a teenager to really get it.
Absolutely. Because when you see him, you realize his peers weren't lying or exaggerating about his skill. The legendary DJ Funkmaster Flex went on record in 2019 saying that Big L was a better lyricist than the notorious B.I.G. and Jay-Z.
That is an incredibly bold statement. In New York City, that's almost blasphemy.
It is, but he said, I know people will get mad at me, but it's the truth. And another elite lyricist, Royce Day, 5'9", said he believed L would be a consensus top 3 rapper of all time if he had lived.
And the streets that raised him, they honored him too. In 2022, they officially renamed the corner of 140th and Lenox
Lamont Big L Coleman Way. He is literally a part of the map of Harlem now. You can't drive through that neighborhood without seeing his name.
So let's zoom out. We have a guy who died tragically young, left behind a relatively small body of official work, but cast this absolutely giant shadow over the genre. What does it all mean? What is his ultimate legacy?
I think Big L represents the ultimate pure MC because he didn't live long enough to make a bad album. He didn't live long enough to sell out. He didn't do a quirky, awkward collaboration with a pop star that aged poorly.
He is frozen in amber at the peak of his power.
He is. He is frozen as this hungry, impossibly talented phenomenon. In our collective memory, he will always be the best rapper in the room, the undefeated battle champion.
But the tragedy is that he was just about to step out of that room and onto the world stage. He was leaving the local gym to go play in the NBA Finals.
And that leads directly to the provocative question I want to leave our listeners with. It's the Game of Thrones question of hip-hop.
All right, let's hear it.
If Big L signs that Roc-A-Fella deal, if he survives February 15th, 1999, how does the entire landscape of 2000s hip-hop change? Does Jay-Z still become the singular, untouchable billionaire mogul if he has to share the spotlight and the label's resources with a lyricist of Big L's caliber?
Does Big L become the undisputed face of New York rap?
Or do they become the greatest duo in hip-hop history and push each other to even greater heights? Or, on the flip side, do their massive talents and egos clash and burn the whole empire down? We'll never, ever know. And that unsolvable mystery is a huge part of the legend.
A legend that, as of October 2025, is still being written.
Indeed.
Still being written.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. If you haven't, please go check out Lifestylez of Poor and Dangerous, go listen to Ebonics, and just appreciate the skill of a true master of the craft.
And pay attention to the lyrics. You might need to rewind a few times to catch everything.
Always. We'll catch you on the next one.
Stay curious.